I'd like to share my personal experience with this issue. It continues to bother me and weigh on my heart whenever I discuss it. I'm Camila, the stepmother of a child approaching their 40th birthday. This is a story about how my life was once full of hope and promises, but it spiraled into a nightmare I never saw coming. Please subscribe to my channel so I can continue sharing fascinating true stories like this one. Don't forget to watch this video until the end and like it if you like it. I think you'll find this story really interesting. Please hit the like button to show your support. It all started so innocently. It was just like any other day in my life. I had been happily married to Michelson for a number of years. He was a man I dearly loved who had 2 children from his previous marriage. Daniel was 20 and Michael was 18. I always knew that being a stepmother would come with its challenges. However, I also thought that with time everything would settle down. The relationship between us was somewhat distant, but that was to be expected. It was only natural that I was the new woman in their lives, and I understood the importance of giving them space and letting them adjust to the changes in their family. Our relationship was inherently dynamic. Michelson and I had been together for a while, but it wasn't always easy to find the right balance. That afternoon, Michelson was away on a business trip, leaving me and his 2 sons at home, but I didn't think anything was out of the ordinary. Indeed, I experienced an unusual tranquility while standing in the kitchen preparing dinner. The only sounds in the room were the clattering of cutlery as I diced vegetables and the simmering of the stew on the stove. The house was tranquil and serene, giving me an unusual sense of solace in the isolation. The silence was nearly overwhelming, and I absorbed the warm, robust aroma of the stew, anticipating a delightful meal for everyone upon their return. Then I heard rapid footsteps from upstairs before I could turn around. Daniel rushed through the kitchen door. His face was pale and his eyes were filled with terror. "Mom, please come up here immediately. Michael is on the verge of death." His voice conveyed urgency and sorrow. The utterance of those words sent a chill through me. I was oblivious to the situation. My heart raced as the words reverberated in my mind. "What do you mean? What is the situation regarding Michael? Did he experience an accident? Is he unwell?" Questions flooded my mind. My breath accelerated, and I lacked the time to contemplate. Without doubt, I abandoned all. My stuff, my knife, the cutting board, everything. "Daniel, we went up the stairs pretty fast." My heart was racing, and I was out of breath. Daniel looked serious and worried. He was moving quickly and loudly. When we got to Michael's room, I was nervous. I didn't know what to expect, but nothing could have prepared me for what I saw when the door opened. Michael was standing in the middle of the room. He was completely naked. The soft light from the window didn't show a happy or relieved look on his face. His smile seemed strange and a bit scary. I couldn't understand what I was seeing. It was like a scene from a horror movie. I was frozen, my heart racing, and I couldn't breathe. I tried to ask him what he was doing, but my voice was shaking. I tried to look away, but the image seemed burned into my mind. Part of me wanted to scream, run away, or do something, but my body wouldn't respond. Before I could think, Michael quickly moved through the room, grabbed my hand, and pulled me inside. His actions were strong and intentional. I tried to pull away, but it felt like my body was stuck and his grip was too strong. The door clicked shut behind me, and I heard it lock. I was panicked. Daniel blocked the doorway, and I could see he was confused. He seemed to be dealing with 2 issues at once. "Daniel, what's going on? Why is this happening? Are you doing this?" I tried to stay calm, but I was shaking. I wanted to ask questions, but I was overwhelmed. I was suddenly overwhelmed by a feeling of dread as I was about to take control of the situation. Daniel's weight fell heavily on my shoulders from behind. His breath was warm against my ear, and his hands grasped my shoulders, though they felt strong and steady. I couldn't help but shiver as he whispered, "Stepmom, we cannot bear to see you with Michelson." His voice was low and scratchy, like he was confessing something. It was as if the universe had stopped turning. I was left speechless and unable to grasp what he was talking about. "What is the subject of your discussion?" I stammered, trying to turn and confront him. But his grip on me tightened, immobilizing me. His gaze remained fixed on me, devoid of uncertainty or remorse, exuding an unusual sense of resolve. At that moment, Michael advanced towards us, gradually, as if he were relishing each instant, prolonging it. The tension in the room escalated as he leaned in, his face mere inches from mine. His gaze was cold and calculating, as if he were trying to figure me out. "Please, Michael, let us speak," my mother said in a flat, emotionless voice. I was shocked. This couldn't be happening. It felt like a physical blow to my throat and chest. I started to cry, but I couldn't move. The children I had cared for and tried to protect were. Now, they were on my other side, trying to get me to do something I didn't want to do. I tried to get away from them, but I couldn't. Michael was in front of me with Daniel behind me, and there was no way out. I was scared and couldn't move. I tried to yell, but my voice was weak and trembling. It felt like my voice had left me. Michael smiled in a way that seemed like he was trying to trick me. He made me shudder all over. "Don't resist, Mother. We don't want to hurt you. We just want you to understand your importance to us." His words hung in the air, heavy and stifling. What happened? I didn't see this coming. I never thought things would get this intense after marrying Michelson. The longer we waited, the worse it got. I was trying to keep my sanity, but it was slipping away. I tried to resist and push them away, but my body wouldn't listen. My mind and body seemed disconnected, and each touch and movement from them seemed to take a part of me. I felt my resistance fading. I was filled with remorse and humiliation. I put on a strange garment, and I felt an internal storm, an uncontrollable tornado. I had involuntary bodily I was afraid. I knew the situation was wrong, but I couldn't stop it or escape from it. With every moment that passed, I felt myself sinking deeper into chaos. I was losing who I was, and the principles I once held were slipping away. I was no longer in control. I had become a pawn in their game, a plaything. For their desires, the days that followed felt like a blur. Every morning I woke up next to Michelson. His peaceful face was a stark, and the turmoil that raged inside me made it hard to believe it was the same person. His warmth, his trust, everything I had cherished in our life together now felt like a cruel joke. I felt trapped in a never-ending cycle of guilt and fear, unable to break free. Each time I looked into his eyes, I saw only love and trust. I knew I had shattered, and yet I couldn't bring myself to tell him the truth about the silence between Michelson and me, which got worse with each passing day. I could no longer look him in the eye without feeling the weight of my deception. I carried my secret like a stone in my chest, heavy and suffocating. The smile that had once come so easily now felt like a mask hiding the deep sense of shame and fear that had taken root inside me. In the evenings when Michelson was at work or out with friends, I found myself alone with Michael and Daniel, the house. That had once felt like a sanctuary, but now it felt like a prison. Every time I saw them, I could feel their eyes on me, watching me, waiting for the next moment to strike. Their presence was like a shadow hanging over me, making every room feel suffocating. They had taken control of my life in ways I couldn't even begin to understand. With every passing day, their hold on me grew stronger. At first, I attempted to resist. I shouted, I pushed, I fought, but it was like trying to stop a tidal wave. The more I fought, the more determined they became. It was as if my resistance only fueled their desire, making them bolder and more daring. The moments I once hoped would pass never did. Instead, they turned into habits. I had once prided myself on my strength, but I had become weak. Emotionally, mentally, and physically, I was struggling. My mind was screaming at me to stop, to get out, to run, but my body no longer obeyed. The struggle became less about what was happening and more about. I felt like a prisoner in my own body. Everything I had once believed in had been stripped away. Piece by piece, my own thoughts had become my enemy. Every time I tried to make sense of what was happening, the truth seemed further out of reach. Buried beneath layers of guilt and shame, I would gaze into the mirror, yearning to find the person I once aspired to be. But I only found a stranger, shattered and lost, who had let everything fade away. My reflection stared back at me with empty eyes, hollow and distant as though I had ceased to exist long ago. I no longer recognized myself, and I didn't know who to turn to. There was no one who could understand the darkness I had fallen into. How could I explain to anyone what was happening? How could I tell Michelson, the man I loved, that his son's flesh and blood had broken me in ways I could never heal? How could I? I told him I had become a victim, a puppet, controlled by them. I couldn't even tell myself what was happening, let alone anyone else. The shame was suffocating. Every time I thought about confessing, a voice inside me told me that it would be the end of everything. Michelson would never forgive me. He'd destroy the life we had built together. Only the ruins of my own mistakes would remain. I felt immobilized, like I was carrying a burden that would never go away. It made me unable to take action. It was totally out of the question, but there were times when I couldn't bear the guilt when I was on my own. I'd cry and soak my pillow with tears, holding it against my chest. I wanted to scream and tell someone how I felt, but I couldn't break the silence that was all around me. The walls of my mind got tighter with each day, trapping me in my own silence and guilt. I started to think, how long could I keep up the pretense? How many more days could I go on faking happiness with Michelson while my spirit crumbled inside? Each night, I lay awake next to him, staring at the ceiling, waiting for sleep to come and only being tormented by nightmares of the things I had let happen. Michael and Daniel were always there in my dreams, following me around, their eyes on me, their voices in my head. No matter what I did, I couldn't escape. They were there, inside me, and there was no way out. I tried to distract myself with work and other things, but nothing helped. I was living a lie. My life, my marriage, everything I thought was true was based on a false reality. I let it happen. I gave in to exploitation. And now there was no way out. I tried to make sense of my thoughts. I told myself I had no choice and was helpless, but I knew the truth. I had been weak, and now I had to face the consequences of my own decisions. How could I confront Michelson? How could I tell him what I'd done? How could I reveal that I deceived him so badly? I struggled with this. I kept thinking that I should tell him the truth. But an inner voice kept telling me that it was too late. If I told him, it would have terrible consequences. There would be no forgiveness, no redemption. Just anguish and devastation. The thought of losing him, of forfeiting everything, was unbearable. It made me realize that I couldn't keep this secret forever. It was too much to bear. I knew I had to make a choice and tell the truth. It was difficult to know whether I was facing up to what I'd done or going through a personal transformation. What I did know was that staying silent would be a mistake. If I didn't speak up and take control of my life, I'd face serious consequences. I'd be lost forever. I'm looking for advice on whether I should tell Michelson everything or keep quiet. Should I come clean and face the music or stay silent and try to muddle through? I'm hoping time will help me heal. If you've made it this far, please don't judge me. I just want to find some peace and quiet. I can't do this alone. I need to know I'm not the only one who's felt this way. I've realized that keeping quiet just makes things worse. It leads to more secrets, more lies, more pain. I should have shared my concerns earlier. I should have confronted the truth from the start, no matter how difficult it was. But it's never too late to fix things. I need to find the courage to keep going, regardless of the outcome or consequences. I'll find a way to move on from this darkness. I'll restore my life's dignity and tranquility. Thanks for listening. Please share your thoughts. Your thoughts and comments could help me find a way out of this confession story. If you think this is interesting or relevant, please like, subscribe, and share your views. We really appreciate your input. Please feel free to leave a comment below. Your contributions help us keep making videos like this. Thanks, and see you in the next one.